Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome to this week's show. So how are you doing? I am actually having a great week. I've had some great conversations, got a lot of progress done on some key projects, and I'm getting ready to hit the road. We're going to take the bus out. The new bus with the mobile studio is hitting the road here, in about 2 weeks or so. So by the time you listen to this, I may already be on the road. And I'll be doing shows from the road, but we're excited about getting that out there and giving it a try. I'm also excited about this week's show. This week's show is an interview with a guest. Guest is Sam Liang. Now, if you don't know who Sam is, he's probably one of the key innovators in Silicon Valley that's behind the scenes. You probably don't even wouldn't recognize his name. But I'm going to bet you've seen or used his technology. He was at Google, 4 or 5 years. He was one of the founders of Google's location services. And he's listed on the patent for the Google Blue Dot. So if you've tracked yourself, shared your location with friends and family, using the Google Blue Dot and all the Google Map features, you've used some of his technology. He has a Ph.D. from Stanford University. And now today, he is the co-founder and CEO at Otter.ai. So Otter.ai provides multi-speaker, long-form transcription, automatic transcription service, live transcription. So while you're in a meeting, you can put your phone down, or while you're in a Zoom meeting, Zoom can transcribe your meeting, and you come out with your meeting notes. So Sam and I talk about a wide range of topics, including the role of disruptive innovations and transitioning in where those innovations just become part of normal life. Google Maps as an example. And also, what is he doing at Otter? Why is it different? And what is the future of those kinds of technologies and what their impact is going to be around conversations? And how do you keep track of what you said or who you said something to, or what action items did you take? To the thing that I am most interested in, collaboration. How do you capture all the ideas when you're bouncing around ideas and you're brainstorming, rather than thinking that you got to write down the post-it notes and have it posted? Where can technology step in and really capture the essence of those ideas? You're not going to want to miss this, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to hop into this week's episode, an interview with Sam Liang. Here we go. Sam, give us a little bit of an introduction, your background. You've got kind of a different background. I know you went to Stanford. You have a Ph.D., so you have an academic background, but you've also been quite successfully commercially. So talk a little bit about your early years. Give us a little context of who you are.
Thank you, Phil. Great honor to be here. Yes, I studied computer science in college first, then working in industry for a few years. But I was, my initial dream was to become a professor. So I went back to Stanford to pursue a PhD in electrical engineering. And I've been focusing on large-scale distributed systems. At Stanford, met a lot of smart people, and many professors who created a lot of startups and billion-dollar companies later on. So I gradually changed my plan. After Stanford, worked at Cisco in a startup, and then later working in Google for 4 years. I was the lead of Google Map location service between 2006 and 2010. And our team actually created the blue dot on Google mobile map, which has been used by billions, if not 10 billions, billions of people, at least 10 billion times. But later I left Google and started to do startups.
Yeah, the Google part of your career is interesting because you're the lead inventor listed on the patent for the blue dot, if I've got that correct. Is that right?
I wouldn't claim to be the lead investor because a lot of us smart people who work on that particular feature and the whole system.
Right.
I was just one of them. Although I started the Google location server project, which was the back end of the location service.
Well, and it's interesting, right? Because I think people don't realize. I mean, we take certain technologies, we just take them for granted, and we don't think about how much work went behind it, right? Like for instance, on Google Maps, my wife and I, we track each other. We just know where, is she at the store? Is she at home? Where are my kids? They're all adults, but I still stalk them. But you don't think about it. I never thought about, okay, someone had to invent that feature, at Google. And I think we tend to take that attitude of a lot of innovations that just become part of day-to-day life. We don't think about what actually went behind the scenes to even create something like that.
Yeah, that's the normal evolution of technology. When it was first invented, everybody was so amazed by it, and say, "Hey, this is revolution! This is so groundbreaking." After a few years, when the technology matured and it became the intrinsic part of everybody's everyday life, then people starts to forget about the technology anymore. Well, that's actually a good thing. This is a lot of things in real life. Even cars have become just a part of our daily life. But I don't know, 100 years ago, it was a great invention. So Google Map, went through that process, and now actually later we'll talk about speech recognition. I think at this moment people are still very, very surprised by the quality of automatic speech recognition generated by artificial intelligence. But I would think 10 years later, this would just become a normal part of life. People will forget about the technology behind it.
Well, it is, right, and it's kind of one of those pieces where there's a disruption that occurs early, right? So Google Maps, you could say, was disruptive. But then once it becomes kind of mainstream, then there's kind of increments that happen as it improves, and then you had the sharing of location and etc. The same, I think, is happening in voice recognition, right? And automatic transcription, right? When you've got voice recognition with all of the Google and Amazon and Apple, with all of their systems now, where you can simply just speak into your phone or speak into a device in your house to have it control things in your house. That's kind of a step one, and people were quite amazed by it. And then people are somewhat comfortable with it. But I don't know about you, and you're in this space. You live in it. I don't. But I still think there's a lot of room for improvement, even from where this has started, with all of these, I don't know what you want to call them, voice rec systems that have been out there for a while.
Right. You mentioned a few things like the Alexa system, also Siri, Apple Siri, Google Assistant. They've been working on this for a very long time. However, the Alexa or Siri are actually quite different from the system we have been building since 2016. When you use Alexa or Siri, you say, "Hey Siri," or "Hey Alexa," to wake up the system and ask a short question like, "What's the weather tomorrow?" or set alarm at 3 p.m., then Alexa or Siri will answer that question or execute the command. So the whole interaction is very short. It's between one speaker and the robot. But when people are having a meeting, either in person or virtual meeting over Zoom or another virtual meeting platform, you have multiple speakers engage in a long form conversation, which could last for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or 60 minutes. For this system, we actually found that the chatbot model doesn't work. It doesn't really handle this complicated conversation between multiple speakers who may have different accents, different background noise, different speaking style. So we had to build the system from the ground up in order to process this much complicated conversation.
Well, it's interesting from the standpoint of even my own background. So back when we started this show, that was, 2005. In the early days, starting probably in 2010, we started transcribing the show, right? So you take your audio file, you'd send it off to some offshore transcribing service. They would type it up, and particularly if you had guests, 2 different voices, right? And it was frustrating because even though there was a human who was listening and typing, they couldn't get it right. Even the human could not get it right because it's hard. Accents, hearing the audio, you're not seeing the person. They're not like watching this video of you and I having this conversation. Even human involved transcribing, the accuracy required a lot of effort on my team's part to go through and re-clean up the transcription and clean it up to where it became usable. And we used to do that, but it just got to be such a pain. We just finally said, something, it's not worth the hassle. So we actually stopped doing it for the show. And that, and I always wondered why, couldn't we do it in a better way? So before we jump into the company you're in now, what was your experience that triggered you to say, there's a better way? What was it that kind of like lit that light bulb for you that says, I can go solve this problem?
Yeah, there are several factors. Actually, the around 2015, 2016 timeframe, we were trying to figure out what to do next. After our first startup, I realized that I've been having so many meetings every day. Having a lot of phone calls, virtual meetings, and in-person meetings. I just have terrible memory myself. I couldn't remember things I heard 3 hours ago. After 3 back-to-back meetings. What did I promise other people I would do next week? Or who told me about that particular company? I was just puzzled. Hey, on Gmail I could search anything 10 years ago, but for all the meetings I'm having every day, I couldn't recall or search things I heard 3 hours ago. I said, there's got to be a way to solve this problem. Then, we surveyed the state of the art at that time. We tested Google Voice API, Microsoft API, Nuance API. We thought, okay, maybe we can try using their API and see what happened. And we were disappointed because using those API, the quality from that API to transcribe meetings was actually very low. So we thought, okay, they couldn't do it. Then we were actually pretty happy to find that situation. We said that means there is opportunity for us to do something better. And
That's
we
one way.
realized
That is one way to
it's
look at it. Like, nobody else has figured this out. Here's a problem here. I'm going to go figure it out.
exactly. So we see the challenge is actually a great opportunity for us because it is actually really hard. We knew it's really hard, but and we say, hey, let's give it a try ourselves. We didn't know we were going to be able to make it, but we thought, at least we should give it a try. So that's how we, with my co-founder Yun Fu, we started Otter.ai in 2016. We started to, do a lot of research and talk to a lot of people. And gradually we built a team. We, and hired a few really smart people, and together we started to build our own deep learning system and train the model with millions of hours of recordings. And then after 2 years, we released our first product in 2018. Since then, I've been growing really fast, having millions of users using Otter now in their daily work.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You think back to, even like the voice rec systems where you can control your PC, where you can try to dictate an email, like the old Dragon systems and all that. After the third or fourth error, you just kind of throw the towel in and say, forget it, I'm not going to use it because I'm faster on a keyboard than I am in this case, it was almost like dictating. You had to speak you had to change your cadence a little bit for it to figure out, which is also, you're making people change. They don't talk naturally that way. They spend too much time trying to create artificial breaks and all the issues that humans trying to adapt themselves to the technology. But as I shared before today's show with you, I'm a user. I'm a customer of Otter. I'm new. I'm still relatively, new to Otter. I mean, the fact is I think it's great that you offer the free version to let people kind of get into it and try it out and see how does it work for their own, so people can kind of figure out how this works for them and how are they going to apply it. But the one thing I am impressive that I'm very impressed with Otter on is that the accuracy is very good even in different environments. Now here we're sitting in my recording studio. I've got sound suppression and my room is all tuned to audio and all those kinds of things. But I use Otter on my phone when I've got a great, I'm working on some new idea and I just whip off, and tell it to record. I've enabled the Otter widget on the top of my iPhone to make it really fast so I can activate it and record. And I basically now use it as my note capture if I'm in the car or whatever. And I'm impressed by how it deals with all the different kinds of environments outside here in Colorado when it's windy, in the car, whatever. So I think you definitely have raised the bar on what people have experienced. But my question for you is do you find people are hesitant because they think you're like the old guys? It's almost like, there's been a lot of people who said they can do voice recognition. None of it's very good, so you just kind of get lumped in as being like one of your predecessors.
Yeah, we met during the last few years. We met maybe two categories. People, in two categories. One is that they're just frustrated with the speech recognition technology. They don't trust it anymore. It's okay. This full of errors. It's not even usable. It actually. Require even more time to use a automatic speech recognition system. And then another type of people say, hey, why are you still working on this problem? Isn't it already solved by Siri or Alexa or Google system?
Yeah, no, that's it. What you're number 15 in the category. Why are you different?
Right. Yeah, that's a very common question from a lot of investors, actually, a lot of VCs we talked to. They said, "Oh, isn't this already a commodity technology? Why do you think you can do better than Google, Amazon, or Apple?"
So,
What they didn't realize is that actually, as I mentioned earlier, the Siri or Alexa model actually doesn't work for multi-speaker long form conversations. And earlier you also mentioned dictation, which actually requires people to speak in a particular way. You have to slow down, speak more clearly, and say comma or period.
mhm.
In a meeting, people are busy. They focus on their own agenda, right? Nobody will speak at a particular speed just to let the a robot understand it. And they wanted the other people to understand it, and people are busy. So our focus is to create a very reliable, robust system that adapt to people's natural speaking style. And we don't require people to change in any way. In fact, if you look at Otter, it's actually passively listening. It's not like Alexa that require you to wake it up. Once you turn on Otter, it just silently works for you in the background. No matter how many people are speaking, how fast you're speaking. Otter will try to get it right. It's still not perfect, admittedly. We're still working on it to further improve it, but as you saw, it's actually usable in most situations. And also you mentioned you use Otter on your mobile device. Yeah, actually before COVID, a lot of users do use Otter in all kinds of situations. In-person meeting, they use it in a restaurant, in a very noisy Starbucks cafe, or when they're driving, or when they're walking their dog in a park, they can use Otter. It's very diverse. Although after COVID happened, most meetings are conducted on Zoom or another virtual meeting platform, and people are using Otter majority of the time together with Zoom or Google Meet or WebEx or Microsoft Teams. So this is what actually we created a new integration with Zoom that allows Otter to automatically hook up with your Zoom account and transcribe all your Zoom meetings automatically.
Well, in fact, you're running Otter right now on this call.
Yes, I'm running it on this call, and I'm sharing the screen with you. If you want, you can share the screen with the audience. Obviously, this is not typed by a human transcriber. This is all done by Otter automatically. Admittedly, although been in the U.S. for 30 years, I still couldn't improve my accent. But Otter is able to get most of my words correctly.
Well, and I want to go back also to, well, one is I mean, we're seeing this on the screen right now where the quality is very, very good. And the fact is that there's two of us, and it's able to pick out each of us, from the standpoint of the conversation. So I think, that is incredibly powerful. And the fact that it does it passively, you don't have to do anything. It just is listening. It gets you the transcription. It gets it to you immediately. You don't send it off like the old, transcribing services. I would send it off, and if I wanted to pay for overnight, that was a premium charge. But it would be 3, 4, 5 days before I got the transcription back. Otter gives it to me back right away. But I want to back up because Otter's different. Otter's different than, how do you describe it? We were talking a little bit about the fact that people kind of put you into this category of, hasn't this already been solved? But they were solving a different problem. When you're talking to people, how do you describe Otter that's different? You mentioned a couple of terms. You know, it's multi-person, long form. But is there a category that you're trying to draw around Otter that differentiates it from all the other systems that are out there?
Yeah, multi-speaker is a very important factor because it's very different from the Siri or Alexa use case where usually there's only one speaker speaking,
Right.
which is very simple. And long-form conversation is also important, compared to Alexa or Siri, where you only speak for a few seconds to ask a question or issue a command. In a meeting, people talk for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or even longer time. And then also due to the speaker change, how does the system detect each different speaker? Right now, actually, the live transcript you're seeing on Otter doesn't show the speaker name in real time yet, but actually after the meeting, Otter will run another algorithm, which is called a diarization and a speaker ID system to automatically identify each speaker's identity. I'll share the transcript with you afterwards so that you can see they're automatically identified. And
See,
also,
I'm gonna cheat automatically. I get a full show transcription and don't have to do much.
yeah, exactly. So
Right.
it's another important aspect is that the traditional transcription service actually is very expensive. It may cost you $60, $100 or even more to transcribe every 1 hour of
Yep.
conversation. That's just not feasible for people's daily meetings because in these days, if you look at your own calendar, you may have 10, 20, 40 Zoom meetings a week. It's just impossible to have a human transcriber transcribe so many meetings, both economically or timing wise, right? Because it actually takes a long time. So what we focus on is to build a system that's has high quality and also economically affordable. This is why we released a product that allows people to use it for free at the beginning, and then just let people experience it without any cost. And then a lot of people recognize the value and they need more advanced features. Then they upgrade to the Pro and the business version, especially for a lot of product managers, sales marketing people, or podcasters. They need a lot of collaboration because when you have meetings, it is a social activity. It is a communication activity to help the team collaborate. So actually in Otter, this is not just the transcription that's interesting. It's also the way you share the information with each other. After a meeting, actually even during the meeting, it's valuable to have the live transcript available to everybody in the meeting. Actually, especially for larger meetings today, once you have 4 or 5 people in the meeting, actually people are multitasking. They're really busy. They're answering Slack messages, they're replying their emails, and having a meeting at the same time. So Otter the live notes actually give you an extra channel to get the information. Maybe you're distracted for a couple of minutes, and maybe your kid, working from home, their kid needs you for a couple of minutes. You come back, you look at the transcript. Hey, what did people just say? Did anybody assign me an action item? Whenever you hear something interesting, you can highlight it. I just highlight the last sentence. You should see it on your screen as well. So all of this, give you an actual channel to collaborate and communicate. Another angle is actually Zoom fatigue. A lot of people say, hey, I'm having so many Zoom meetings every day. I'm really tired. Can I skip some meetings? But then the question is, can I still get the information if I skip the meeting? So if you ask your colleague to share the live notes with you, you can review it at your own pace, actually. If you're a marketing person, maybe the only thing you need to pay attention to is anything related to marketing. Search for the keywords related to your job. Just listen to part of it if you need to. For a 1 hour meeting, maybe 10 minutes is enough for you to get information you need without spending the other 15 minutes sitting in the live meeting.
It's a question because, I've seen this, happen in some meetings, right? Even if you're going to turn on the Zoom recording where you're going to do the video recording of a meeting, some people don't want to be recorded, or do they act differently? Have you had any feedback from users whereby they've seen any kind of dynamic change with how people interact when they know they're being recorded versus not being recorded?
At this moment, there are some concerns from some people. There's several things, whether you record the video, whether you record the audio, or both, or whether you're transcribed. Actually, each one can be done independently. For some highly sensitive things, maybe just people say, "Hey, I just want this to be off the record." That's totally fine. But our experience that probably 95% of the meetings is okay to be recorded because it has value for both people who attended the meeting live and the people who missed the meeting due to some conflict, or they're sick, or they're just in a different time zone. For large corporations, this is why actually a lot of our customers, a lot of international companies find this really useful because they have people located in different time zones. Having this available is actually really valuable. So I think there are some situations people don't want to use this, but moving forward, we see more and more meetings can use this. And again, user has full control. They can turn it off, or they can program it in a way that certain meetings are just not included in this process.
Well, but I think people change, right? Because even I've been using Zoom now 8 years. It's an alpha customer with Zoom, and even back with Skype and all of them, people were hesitant. They would not turn their cameras on, right? But now I think COVID's had some impact on this, to where it's now almost become etiquette. If you're actively in a meeting, turn your camera on, unless you're like in a webinar and you just want to focus on the speaker or something. And in the early days, people did not want to be recorded on Zoom, and now more and more people are like, "Hey, yeah, fine. If I'm willing to say it, I should be willing to say it and be recorded." So I'm going to predict. I'm going to go out and make a prediction here that I think people may have an opinion about it today, but when it becomes more natural, this kind of gets back to the blue dot on Google Maps, right? In the early days, people were like, "Oh, I don't want my information shared. I don't want my location shared." But as soon as people figure out that, wow, my wife can know when I'm on my way home from work, or I know that she's at the store, or she's on her way back, I don't have to call her or harass her to find out what she's doing, right? It just becomes part of the natural thing. I think this transcription, when it makes that leap from being, "Wow, this works," to, "Wow, here are all the different use cases I'm going to use it for," I think that issue of concern kind of goes away. It's like this transition of the blue dot to being just part of life, to these long form transcriptions. I don't have to worry about writing notes. I can pay attention, or I can deal with other things. I think it just becomes kind of, I'm going to predict that eventually it gets to the point where someone says, "Well, what do you mean you're not transcribing the notes? You mean I got to bring a notebook and I got to write? I got to write while you're talking?"
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think we definitely, take privacy very seriously. All the data is owned by the user. We don't sell the data. If the user asks or delete the meeting in Otter, we erase all the copies. It is encrypted on disk and in transmission as well. And then it's going to be a new habit, and that people in a few years will just assume Otter is available in the background because they're mentally dependent on it.
Right.
If it's missing, and then people say, "Oh, well, how come the Otter is not working? How am I going to remember all these 10 things?" In a few years, I think it will be the opposite. People say for certain meetings, you just have to say, "Hey, for this meeting, I really don't want it to be transcribed." Then they turn it off.
Right. But it's going to be. I think it's going to become the exception. I think it's so. Give us a little bit of background on Otter. Where is it today? Now it's been when it was founded. When was it founded?
It was founded in 2016.
Right.
It's more than 4.5 years now. It's growing really fast with the COVID situation. Actually, a lot of people found Otter even more valuable for the remote work situation. And longer term, we see this is the future of work. The COVID situation actually accelerated the evolution, and people using it with Zoom, with other virtual meeting systems, sharing the information with their team. It continued to grow really fast.
Well, and you've been quite successful in raising investment capital for Otter from some of the leading firms that are out there on the VC side. You've got a partnership with Zoom, and I'm sure you're working or you have partners with a lot of the players. Plus, your tool is passive, so it listens. It's amazingly simple. What's next for Otter? What's on the horizon? What are you working on?
A lot of things on both the technology side and the product side. On technology side, there's obviously still a lot of work to do to make Otter even more accurate, more context aware, because a lot of words are being invented every day, acronyms, special terminologies, people's names. How can Otter be even more intelligent in terms of understanding the new words, new acronyms, new names, and be more robust whenever there is, sometimes the network connection is not good, sometimes there's the background noise. How can Otter still figure out what the user is speaking? And then, more understanding of the conversations. Longer term, we see Otter is a technology to process conversation intelligence. So it's not just a transcription. Transcription just the first step to capture the conversation, digitize it, but then on top of that, really understand what the conversation means. When one person asks a question, another person answers the question. Then later on, can Otter summarize your meeting for you? Can Otter automatically detect some important points, important facts, important numbers? And then, right, the product-wise, how do we make it work even better with your team members? How do you just, if somebody missed a meeting, can Otter just send them the highlights, whatever action items assigned to them, notify them? It's and also integrated with more virtual meeting platforms. We build Otter as a platform agnostic product. although it works really well with Zoom today, but it's not. You can use Otter for your Google Meet, your Microsoft Teams meetings as well. So there's more integration ongoing.
Right. Hey, Sam, I want to thank you for taking the time for joining us. If people want to find out more about Otter and keep track of what you're up to, where's the best place they can find you?
It's very simple. Just go to offshore.ai website. And also, if you have a team, go to offshore.ai/teams. We have all the information there.
Right, and we'll have all the links up on the show notes over at Killer Innovations. Hey, Sam, thanks again for taking the time out of your schedule. Love the product. I'm going to be transparent with the users. I'm not being paid for this. Otter's not a sponsor. I am just a fan as a user of Otter, just in what we do and what I do. So check it out. And Sam, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for having me here.
So I have one question for you. After listening to Sam's description of what drove the formation of Otter.ai, what problem are you going to go solve? Now, Sam shared, it wasn't like coming out with something totally new. There has been digital transcription attempts before. There's been other companies in the past that have tried to do what Otter.ai is doing. But it was a problem. What exists did not solve Sam's problems. After doing meeting after meeting after meeting, keeping track of what did he say, what to-do items did he need to write down, the challenge of listening and being engaged in a conversation while taking notes. So it's not the issue of innovation always has to be something totally new, blank sheet of paper. Nobody's ever tried this. You can fix problems that exist today. So my question to you is what problem are you going to go out and fix? What's that pain that you are experiencing? Use today's show, use the conversation with Sam as that inspiration, that jumping off point for you to find maybe something that somebody else has tried to solve but hasn't done a very good job of it, and you can do better. Now, if you didn't capture all the notes during the show today, hop on over to killerinnovations.com. We will have all of the show notes over there, so check that out. Also, the one thing I would ask for you to do today is, one, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes covering great topics like today. And also, share it with others. I started this podcast back in 2005 under the pressure and direction of my early mentor, Bob Davis. I could not pay him back for what he did in helping me get my career started down the right track. When I first got my first job, I could not pay him back. His instruction to me was pay it forward. And that's what we've been doing now since 2005, is putting out this content to help you, to pay it forward, to share with you my experiences over my career. And hopefully you find it useful along your path to your success. I'm always looking for feedback. If you've got comments, suggestions, things that you think we could do better here, or topics that we haven't covered, questions you've always wanted to ask that have never been answered, let us know what those are. You can send them to me directly at phil@killerinnovations.com. That's right, phil@killerinnovations.com. It bypasses all the team, and it comes directly to me. Would love to hear your feedback. Would love to hear your topic suggestions. And if you've got somebody that you've heard, a book you've read, something that you think the other listeners would enjoy, send those over. Always looking for great suggestions. Also, if you want to continue the conversation, hop on over to the Innovators community. Just go on over to theinnovators.community. That's a free community, free of charge. You just sign up there. You become part of the community of innovators, everything from the next Thomas Edisons to high school kids working on their next project to chief innovation officers at Fortune 100 companies in the full breadth. Have an opportunity to contribute and also to learn from a great community of innovators. And with that, We're going to talk to you next week. As I said at the beginning of the show, we're getting ready to hit the road. So follow us, see where we're at. You never know. If we're close by, you see us on the road, stop me and say hi. With that, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.